Hello, and thanks again for joining us in Networks Illustrated Principles Without Calculus. In this lecture, we're going to look at a device that you hold in your hand probably every day, your cell phone. Specifically, we're going to look at the types of decisions that it has to make in order to decide what power that it should be transmitting at any given time. As we will see, the principle that sharing is hard is very applicable. Have you ever stopped to think, how many cell phones are there, either in the world or in a region, like a country? So suppose we had 6 people. Would we have, on average, less cell phones than people? So would we have maybe 4 cell phones for every 6 people, meaning that every person has, on average, less than 1 cell phone? Would we have the same number, meaning that every person's going to have, on average, 1 cell phone? Or will we have more, like 8 cell phones for every 6 people, meaning that every person has on average more than 1 cell phone? A decade or two ago, there were many, many more people than there were cell phones. But the number of cell phones has risen very dramatically in that time, so that these numbers are becoming closer and closer to one another. At the end of 2012, there were about 7 billion people in the world, and there were about 6 billion mobile subscriptions. So we're not actually looking at the number of manufactured devices or the number of cell phones that have ever been made, but we're looking at those that are currently in use or currently subscribed to a mobile plan. And so if we looked at the number of cell phones relative to the number of people, we would have 6 over 7, meaning that for every 6 phones, there are on average 7 people. So this is approaching 1, meaning that in the world, there's soon going to be on average 1 cell phone per person. So you may have guessed that that number would have been around 1, maybe even a little less than 1. But what you probably didn't know is that it's drastically different depending upon which country you look at. So in this graph over here, we're showing the penetration rate, which is this number that we just showed down here, of taking the number of mobile subscriptions and dividing it by the number of people in the population. And this is as of December 2012. And so if you look at the countries on the right-hand side over here, you see that the penetration rates for these countries are less than 100%, or it's really just this decimal number in percentage form. And what that means is that there are more people than there are cell phones. And that might make sense because some of these countries have very large populations, very dense populations. But on the left-hand side of this arrow, these countries have ratios that are over 100%. For instance, the United States has recently gone up to 103%, and that keeps going up more and more, which means that there are actually more cell phones than there are people. And if we come all the way over here to Russia, that is at 160%, which means that there is between 1 and 2 cell phones per person, and it's closer to the 2. So there's closer to 2 cell phones per person than there is 1 cell phone per person in Russia. And just to sort of write this out, the penetration rate is equal to the number of mobile devices, or the number of mobile subscriptions, to be exact, divided by the number of people in whatever region we're talking about. So with all the 6 billion cell phones there are in the world, how is it possible that we can all transmit on the same network medium, meaning the air, without interfering with each other's conversations? Certainly you've been next to someone before who's also been on their cell phone and has been talking to someone that you're not talking to, but you can't hear their conversation and you can't hear what's going on. So how is it possible that we can all transmit at the same times and not cause any problems with one another? Well, the modern cellular system, we can write the word cellular down, is the result of decades of technological innovations in which engineers have experimented with different ways of allowing us to share this network medium, or really share the air in this case, because the network medium with cellular is the air. And so they came up with many different methods of allowing us to do that as efficiently as possible, which is why you can't hear your friend's conversation at the same time as yours.